How are we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we welcome you back to the Week 2 Around the NCAA recap show. Coming off of a huge Pitt victory to open the season, of course, your Panthers won 14-3 against the Ohio Bobcats. We'll give just a little bit of a brief recap of that matchup. Of course, the highlight was 2 touchdowns from freshman sensation Jay Keys, one of the receiving variety and one of the rushing variety for a Pitt team that we didn't have the greatest, offensive performance. Pitt wasn't spectacular. They ran the ball okay, 122 yards on the ground, which is, well below what we've come to expect from them from the last few seasons, but they just don't have the horses or the line up front necessary to push for an offensive game. They did throw a good amount. It was about a 50-50 split between throws and rushes, but only 166 yards. Could have been a little bit better. Tough interception for Kenny, but the big story for Pitt was the defense was spectacular. Patrick Jones, 3-sack performance, forced 3 fumbles, 2 were recovered by Sean Wolfgang, who also had a sack. Keyshawn Camp had 2 sacks, but Kenny was sacked himself 5 times, so a trading of sacks there on both sides of the football. A good game for him. He managed the game well, moved the football when the Panthers needed him to. He did have a good 25-yard carry as well that brought back some yardage. So he had a decent game. CJ London looked good running the ball. I will say almost 5 yards a carry once he had to come in for Todd Sibley, who went out with injury. 8 attempts for 26 yards. Not a great start for him, but it was the first quarter for the Panthers. Tough to say there. Jay Keys actually was Pitt's leading receiver, as well as Paul Lees. So the Lees and Keys show could be a good matchup for the Panthers moving forward, especially with Maurice French going to be out for this week's game coming up. The Panthers will play Tulane this week. Maurice French has been ruled out for that contest. He's expected to return for the Panthers showdown in Happy Valley with Penn State, but he will be out for this next matchup. On the line, you can see those couple of new guys on the right side. Michael Collins, John Cooper at center, both gave up sacks. Collins actually gave up 2 sacks from the right tackle position, so tough day at the office for him, but the Panthers defense more than made up for any kind of woes they might have had offensively. Paris Ford, 10 tackles. Jazzy Stalker had 9. Patrick Jones from defensive end, 8 tackles, 4 for a loss, 3 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He had an incredible day. You can see Camp and Wolfgang with sacks as well, like we mentioned. It was a great game all around for the Panthers. No interceptions, so they didn't force any turnovers in that regard, which is incredible because I think last season we had 1 fumble recovery the entire season. The Panthers already have bested that with 2 in 1 game. So incredible start to the season as far as the turnover battle is concerned. For Pitt, really nice game there. Sean Wolfgang even nearly had a touchdown at the end with the last fumble recovery that he did have. Was tackled as he was going towards the end zone, but it was a good performance as well. Eric Fox had a nice game. Jay Bump didn't really have to do anything field goal wise, but Eric Fox had a nice game. 2 punts inside the 20 against only 1 touchback. Good performance there. And you can see Ohio, they ended up with 237 yards. They actually would have been under 200 yards for the game, but Maxwell hit like a 47-yard pass on one of his last completions of the game, the last drive on a 4th down play. So if we just stopped that, they would have been way under that number as he hit Kevon Harris for a 45-yard gain. But Pitt did get some benefit of the doubt from a few drops from the Ohio offense, especially one in the end zone by Odom. But, you'll take what you have to do, as the Panthers need to do. I think the biggest thing for Pitt, the offensive line needs to improve just a bit to help, A, the running game, and also, B, to protect Kenny Pickett a bit more for this new look kind of shotgun style passing attack that the Panthers are going to utilize. If they want that to be successful, there needs to be a bit more time and protection for Kenny Pickett in the pocket. But still a good victory for the Panthers. And interestingly enough, conversely, their big rival Penn State that they'll be playing in a couple weeks demolished Temple 48-27. So another big win for Penn State. I think Kent State was who they beat in the first week, like 49-21 or something. So they're a high-scoring effort or high-scoring outfit. Some big upsets in the top 25, though. Illinois gets into the top 25 as 25. They lose to P.J. Fleck in Western Michigan. Clemson and Louisville both with wins, but pretty weak over FCS schools. Not huge affairs there. Notre Dame beat Syracuse at MetLife Stadium in New York. And then the biggest storyline, Michigan 31-28. The defending national champions already lose in their opening game of the season. The Michigan Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh with a tight victory, but a victory nonetheless, knocking off the number 1 team in the country, 31-28. So that's a huge victory there. Another big game, the Cowboy Classic. Oklahoma 33-23 over Georgia in a top 10 battle. Tennessee obliterates Nebraska 31-3. So a big victory there. And then another huge surprise. Virginia Tech 45-10 over Wisconsin. They were pretty evenly matched teams, and Virginia Tech just blew them out of the water. Auburn, 30-28, outlasts a 4-touchdown effort from Felipe Franks in Florida. Stanford over Northwestern, UCLA wins, and Texas beats Cal. LSU also 35-24 over Arizona State. Another solid performance for the Tigers. In the ACC, of course, biggest storyline for ACC teams was Buffalo defeating Boston College 31-28, so upset loss there for the Eagles. Duke beat Army, Louisville won, Syracuse lost to Notre Dame, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Wake with a nice victory over UTEP to prevent themselves from going to 0-2. Florida State over an FCS school, and then Virginia with Bryce Perkins at the helm nearly pulled off a big victory, but they fall in their season opener to Oregon 21-18, and Justin Herbert at quarterback there. NC State with a blowout over Gardner Minshew's ECU 38-6. North Carolina looking high scoring again with a big victory, and of course the Virginia Tech win. And something I don't think we've ever seen in this dynasty. We had an NCAA Player of the Week performance on defense, no less. Patrick Jones with his 3-sack, 3-forced fumble, 8-tackle performance wins NCAA Player of the Week alongside Texas quarterback Shane Buechele. And then, of course, that means Jones is going to win ACC Player of the Week as well for his stellar performance alongside Jacoby Myers, the senior quarterback at NC State, who had a 400-yard, 5-touchdown performance. But great game from Patrick Jones, and hopefully we can see more of that. We talked about him as one of the biggest impact players potentially for us this season, and he showed that off in game 1, so hopefully we'll see he can continue that as the season carries on. But Alabama with their victory goes up to number 1, as Washington with their loss to Michigan falls all the way back to number 10 in the rankings, so everybody started moving up there. Oklahoma with their big victory over Georgia moves up to 4. Georgia, who I think was at, because Oklahoma was at 7, Georgia was at 9, they drop back to number 15 in the rankings, so a little bit of moving and shaking for some of those early upsets that occurred. We don't go anywhere in the polls. We stay at 16. All the moving happened above and around us, but not where we were, so we stay at 16 after our victory over Ohio, as well as some of the other mid-ranked teams there. Michigan comes into the rankings. They weren't ranked at all. They're now number 19 after beating Washington, so a huge victory for Harbaugh's program. They've been pretty middling, 7-5, 8-4, things like that every season in this career mode, or in this dynasty, I should say. And so if Harbaugh can finally break through and have a good season this year, that'll be the vote of confidence that he needs from the Michigan fandom. In the ACC coming up this week, like we mentioned, we're going to be playing Tulane. Duke will be taking on Northwestern. Boston College will have a chance to redeem themselves with an in-state rivalry match against UMass. Big ACC tilt as Florida State and Virginia Tech, a couple of ranked opponents, take each other on there in Blacksburg. That'll be a huge game for the Hokies and the Seminoles. Clemson takes on FIU, a couple of FCS opponents for Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Battle of the Northern Schools, North Carolina and Northern Illinois. Rivalry game inside of the state of Kentucky as Louisville and Kentucky take each other on. Bryce Perkins looking for his first win under center as Virginia takes on Connecticut. So former Big East school, Connecticut, taking on ACC's Virginia. NC State has an FCS opponent. And then Ohio plays another ACC school, interestingly enough. After losing to us last week, they'll take on Wake Forest, this week, looking for Matt Canada's first ever win at the helm of Ohio. And then an in-state Florida game as FAU, Florida Atlantic, takes on Miami. But around the country, some big games. Kirk Herbstreit likes Virginia Tech to come with a victory over an FSU team that you could argue has more talent, but Virginia Tech looked very impressive in their victory over Wisconsin. Stanford taking on UCLA in a big Pac-12 matchup there. Stanford is Herbstreit's team that he likes to take, but UCLA, we know they've had a great season. They were undefeated all the way until the Pac-12 championship game last year, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. Ole Miss, they're an A+ school. They're not ranked very highly, but they look good in their first matchup, and so they're taking on number 9 Tennessee, who's been very good this season. Herbstreit likes the Volunteers, but that should be a good game. Notre Dame taking on Michigan State. Michigan State gave Alabama certainly a run for their money as they took them to overtime, so we'll see what they can do against the number 3 ranked Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And finally, a look at your Pitt Panthers taking on the Tulane Green Wave. Shout out to D. Jeezy on Operation Sports, big Tulane dynasty over there. But it's going to be a good matchup. It should be fun. Tulane is one of those teams that, for us to try and get our offensive, this is who we want to be playing. They don't have a great defensive rating. Ohio actually had a pretty solid ranked defense, and their offense is okay, so it'll be good for our defense to, again, build more confidence, see another style of offense that we want to play against easily, just because of the fact that they don't have a particularly strong roster. And when we go through their lineup, we can see they got a left guard who's a 91 overall, but otherwise, a decent halfback with very good speed. So Harry Pearson's a guy we're really going to have to contend with, 97 speed, and they do like to have a pretty pro rushing attack. Darius Bradwell is their senior quarterback. They actually have two solid quarterbacks, which is a shame that they're, kind of wasting their second quarterback there, Brantley, but it is what it is. But you can see they don't have a particularly high-rated team overall. They only have about 10 guys that are 80 overall or better, even 10 or 11 guys there, but they do have some talent on the offensive side of the football. Of course, Bradwell, he's got some decent speed and he can move it. Pearson is going to be a good combo with him because Pearson is fast as all get out as a true junior already. Should be a very good player. Okay receivers. They got Robertson and Hicks at least as their top combo, but beyond that, they don't have a lot of depth. So I think it should be a good matchup for our secondary to really just get dialed in. Offensive line, they're okay. They do have some good solid players in their offensive line. So I think it'll be a good test for Jones and Wolfgang and Keyshawn Camp and company to try and continue to not redeem themselves, but improve and continue to develop before we take on what's going to be a very formidable Penn State team. So let me know in the comments who you think is going to win this matchup. I think the line is going to heavily favor Pitt. We're at least going to be, I'd say, 2 to 3 touchdown favorites over Tulane here. Check out Operation Sports Football Dynasty's forum if you want to see the actual line on the game. But it should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Tulane's going to be a fun team to play. They have a great uniform combo, so I'm excited about that because they do have a nice color scheme. I love the kind of like baby blue and teal that they're working with, so that should be a good color matchup with our new home uniforms with the bright yellow and the blue taking on, or I should say university gold, and the royal blue that we have. But those should be fantastic. It should be a great matchup. Color matchup should be fun on the field, and it should be a great game. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you on the field. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.